differently.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Doing well, dude. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Oh,
So,
pleasure.
you know, it's been quite a week. And one thing that's just really been cracking me up is the whole mindset with the cargo short dorks and the
Yeah.
fashion.
Yeah, I was blasted by Esquire for not having fashion, but the person who writes fashion for them has no fashion. It's fun. Yeah, I started a thread and got everybody wound up because I'm not supposed to be allowed to write about fashion, apparently. I think it's funny how limiting the world is, right? Oh, you're a whatever. And because you're a whatever, whether if you like me, I'm a journalist, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a whole host of things. If you don't like me, I'm a fringe political figure. Even though it's like, well, if I'm fringe, why are you writing about my fashion and attacking me if I'm fringe, right? They don't even know what words mean, but I find it amusing. And that's a broader mindset lesson is people are always trying to put you in a box, whether you're me dealing with the whole world or you're just trying to live your life. People are always going to try to limit you, and you shouldn't let them.
Well, and I think the mindset of that whole thing is really interesting in that there's people that really get triggered by having an opinion about something that is they're so attached to that they can't detach from that opinion. And it's interesting that you get that from people and that level of vitriol over cargo shorts, which, by the way, I think your original tweet of, show me a man who wears cargo shorts and flip-flops, and I'll show you a man who's not serious about life. I think, it's tongue in cheek, sure. But there is a lot to take away from that. I mean, that is indicative of a whole lot of life choices, not just the cargo shorts, right?
Yeah, and what was funny to me is men would like tag in people who were wearing shorts or flip-flops, and I'm thinking, you're exhibit A, you can't even have your own arguments. You have to tag in other people like some kind of little beta trying to start an argument between me and someone else. That's how pathetic Team Cargo Dorks are, is rather than just say, I'm a cool guy, I wear cargo shorts, they would tag in and say, oh, have you seen Jocko? He's wearing flip-flops in this picture. And I'm thinking, what kind of man tags in another public figure man to try to start some little, internet spat? So pathetic. And it only reinforced my belief about Team Cargo Dork.
Yeah, and it's it just goes back to it's the old high school fight, where you're tagging in your buddies and let's go down to the 7-Eleven and get in a rumble, right?
Well, not even rumble, yeah. Worse.
But I think that it's funny. I mean, it's really a funny thing because you have these guys that are really attached to that, and then you have people on the outside looking in saying, hey, it really is, it's kind of indicative of a lot of different life choices. And then you double down on this by giving the fashion advice, which, triggered everything from Muppet comparisons to, articles in Esquire magazine to, different, venues that I guess perpetuate the fashion police, or I don't even know where they're coming with some of this stuff. But it is interesting that it trickles down to all these different things, and who's to say you can't give fashion advice?
Right. And I liked how one of the criticisms of my fashion advice was that it was, quote, try hard, which was silly because I said in the article that you should dress to stand out. So their critique on fashion wasn't even intelligent. They couldn't even wrestle with my underlying points. And it really shows a lot of things. I mean, it shows how on a deeper level, people want to limit you. You're an X and you can't talk about certain subjects. It shows you how in modern culture, the left sort of views that as their home turf. And because I'm perceived as right-wing, even though that isn't really accurate, they get really upset that I would go in to their quote-unquote turf. And finally, you love to hate men who are self-confident and have a little swagger. I tweeted out before I started that thread to kind of show people what the direction was going to head is 10, 15 years ago, there was a blog called Hot Chicks with Douchebags. And I would read it and say, yeah, look at those douchebags, LOL. And everybody kind of laughed at them. And frankly, they look like buffoons. And then one day I realized, I go, wait a minute though, but they're with hot chicks. I'm just really jealous. I didn't even realize it, but a lot of times we don't even realize it. Unconsciously, I was jealous, and my jealousy had been transmutated into ridicule. Oh, look at these, losers. But I wasn't out with the hot chicks, right? They were
that's a great point, because that's the ability to look at yourself and see that within yourself, because some of those writers, I think, are upset that here's a guy who, all these different names they called you. I don't even remember what they all are, but they called you all these horrible names, and he's giving you fashion advice. How can he do that? What they're really pissed about and what they're really jealous about is the fact that your thread of tweets got, I don't know, 10,000 retweets, or, whatever the algorithm allowed that to do. But it had this massive engagement that if they were to post something on their Twitter or their Facebook or their Instagram, they wouldn't have that. So really that jealousy comes out because the guy at Esquire could probably get on Twitter and post some stuff about his fashion, and he'd get 3 or 4 people engaging with that. And so that's what it is.
There's always layers to this stuff. And partially, the Esquire fashion guy, I looked at some of his pictures, and, he needs to go to the gym a little bit, and that's fine. But he doesn't realize he's just jealous of me because I look better than he looks, which is all very high school. That's one thing you learn about when you get older is when you're in high school, you think, oh, man, I can't wait to graduate. I won't be around all these high school idiots anymore. And then you graduate and you go, wait a minute, I'm still in high school. And then I'm a 41-year-old man, and I'm still caught in people trying to stuff me into the proverbial locker, except I'm a 220-pound gorilla, or whatever I weigh. But that's what they're trying to do, is shove me. The mean girls in the media are trying to shove me into a locker, and it doesn't end. High school never ends. So that's why we don't. That's why you got to find your crew, man. That's why you have to get away, because the norm is high school mindset, and we ain't having any of that.
Right. And that goes back to the thing that we've talked about a couple times with having, a friend set that really supports you. And, like last weekend, we all went out and had lunch in Los Angeles, had a great time, great group of guys there. And, nobody's doing the old high school, thing of making fun of what I'm wearing or you're wearing, or, let's go fight out in the parking lot and all this kind of stuff, and, trashing people. Everybody's there just to build each other up, which is really great.
Yeah, you have to curate. You have to curate your friend group, that's for sure, because otherwise you're just stuck in high school.
Okay, so last week we talked about Instagram, and so how does this whole idea of fashion, and you mentioned going to the gym. I've seen you, I guess it was recently, a few days ago, you had something on Instagram or Twitter, I don't remember which, saying, I don't understand why guys don't lift. It literally improves every avenue of your life. And I'm not going at this from, hey, how do you do a lifting routine or a protein shake routine or whatever? What I'm asking is, how do you feel as an influencer? How do you feel that having a good look that stands out, having, I'm not saying you have to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? But looking good, how does that affect your social media and your ability to attract an audience?
Yeah, you hate to say it, but it's true. A look, you have to have a look. And I've even, one thing that keeps me in pretty good shape, and I need to get like even bigger. If I were back like big muscle man like I used to be 4 or 5 years ago, my Twitter would be even bigger than it is. Nobody wants to admit this. It's like the dirty little secret, but that does draw it for a number of reasons. One is because it's like contrast. So most people in media are kind of dorky, right? But so then if you're not dorky, you're like standing out. You're gonna contrast with the competition. Now,
are you saying that it is both dress and physique?
Oh, vanity. I would say one, Ideally, you're both. Ideally, you're jacked and you dress really nice.
Because you can't be jacked or be a yoked bro and then running around with Birkenstocks, white socks, and cargo shorts.
Well, what I always tell people is if you're a big muscle guy, don't wear the try hard tank tops. If you're a big muscle guy, look nice, because then it's a contrast. Everything is always about contrast, and standing out is always about contrast. So I would tell people, if you want to build a social media profile, yeah, you need to look nice. You need to have outfits. You need to give a lot of thought to this. And this falls in the category of do as I say, not as I do, because I'm not trying to build my social media following. I've been trying to, a lot of times shrink it because it got a little too big, and I got tired of being recognized everywhere and stuff, which sounds absurd to people. Like, what do you mean you got too famous? Like, well, I did. I didn't like it, okay? And I have the right to say that, okay, I reached where I kind of want to be. But if I were trying to grow my profile, I would not be wearing this shirt right now. I would be wearing something completely different. It would be a lot more fashionable. Or when I did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, it became one of their biggest AMAs of all time. I wore this like pink headband because I knew that would draw attention to my live stream of the AMA. And then they would all post a picture. Oh, look at how ridiculous Cernovich looks. When really I was trying to look ridiculous. I was to show the absurdity of it as a form of meta performance. But yeah, if people just show up bland, like people say, why can't I grow my social media? It's like, because you're boring. You look boring. Your tweets are boring. Your Instagrams are boring. Your life is boring. Get off of social media. Go read a bunch of books. Go have some success in business. Go do something interesting and then come back. But all these guys, yeah, they're like 22. Oh, yeah, why don't I have 100,000 Twitter followers? Like, because you're boring. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being boring. But you need to go out and live in this world and have something to talk about. And moreover, I don't know why all these people want to be social media. We talked about this in the last one.
Yeah.
I don't know what they think they're going to get out of it. Like a little bit of e-fame that doesn't pay the bills.
Right. And yeah, and that's a whole nother thing, is trying to monetize this stuff. But and some guys are very good at monetizing that. I think you and I had talked to Fleckus last week at lunch, and he was telling us about how he's doing a college tour and things like that, and selling some merchandise and stuff like that. So there are ways to monetize it, but it's a business like anything else, right? It's just like owning an apartment building, or just like selling skincare products or whatever it is. It takes work, it takes effort. You have to put a lot into it, and just for the sake of having a big following and not knowing what you're going to do with that, it's pretty much a waste of time.
Or not only that, but I don't get why they want. I think what happens is they're kind of aimless. And it used to be, if you were aimless, you would go to law school. I had people tell me, I'm going to go to law school. I say, please don't. You're going to go anyway. You're making a huge mistake. But law school was always, if you're above average intelligent person and you kind of don't know what you want to do, I'll just go to law school, not really thinking it through. And today, the aimless man just wants to become a social media influencer. But when I was in my early 20s, it would have been absurd to me to try to – I was living life, grinding away, reading books, spending all this time in the gym, not trying to give hot takes on – and it's usually hot takes on the news of the day, right? Do we need another person to be like pro or anti-Trump, or pro or anti-Hillary? The market for that's like saturated. So I always tell people, what's your unique message? Me – I'm a mindset guy. I do fashion, some journalism. I know how to keep it funny. I have a good sense of, I have a lot going for me. And
you have a lot of life experience that you bring to, with your bamboo sunglasses today.
Yeah. What I tell people is if I had the internet when I was their age, I would not be good at the internet. The reason I'm good at the internet is because I didn't have the internet. So if you're bored, I had to read books. I have this thing, it's handcuffs, but it's also golden cage. And before this, I brought a book with me everywhere I went because my mind is always like on warp speed. And so I would just read, spend hours and hours at bookstores, walking through Barnes and Noble. I read this book. Now if I read a book a month, that's a pretty good month for me. But when you read books, you're great at social media because you have life experience, knowledge, anecdotes. You can bring in lessons from history and culture and philosophy, And then you're incredible on social media because almost no one on social media has ever actually read a book, let alone the libraries full that I have. So I always tell people, don't get on social, don't try to be an influencer. Go live a life, have some success. And then you can talk about business. You can talk about this. You have all this stuff to talk about because you're busy living life. And then you also too have money and resources to draw on. And then you're not trying to scramble every month like a lot of these guys are trying to get, a couple $100 here or there.
Right. Yeah. And that is an interesting piece to it too. I guess I just struggle with that whole side of it as to, where people are going, because there is a little bit of aimlessness there. But what I'm finding interesting, and a lot of the feedback that I'm getting on the podcast that we're doing here, is that you have guys out there like a Gary V or, some of these other guys that are doing this hardcore, it's entrepreneurship all day, every day, everything's about that, right? And we talk about a lot of those things, but it's interesting in that we're able to blend in these other things, whether it be, a cigar, or whether it be whiskey, or, we've talked about doing some stuff with cars and things like that. And we're able to talk about the impact that some of the stuff has on culture as well. So it makes it more interesting than just day in and day out. Hey, you got to go hustle, you got to grind, you got to do this, sales thing. You've got to, go call, these 20 people and do this and get up at 4 a.m. and blah, 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 blah. We're not out here preaching all that. I mean, we talk about.
Well, if you're under 30, you should. Yeah. Gary V also, he started off as a wine guy, remember?
Yeah, absolutely.
He had to learn the internet.
Came to my family's winery and did a interview there with my brother and my father years and years ago, back when he was just doing wine.
Yeah. So in that regard, I do agree with him in terms of how young men should live. A lot of young men who reach out to me, I view as frankly pathetic, because they're just not grinding. They're like, I think I'm going to start a blog. Well, you link to it. Don't ever come to me, I think I might start a blog. No, you won't. You won't. And if you start it, you'll quit after a week because you won't be able to how to figure out a plug in, or I don't know what to write, I have writer's block or whatever. So in that, I believe in a balanced life. But a balanced life to me this is when I was grinding. This is to this day I work like this. But when I was really grinding, my rule was nothing but working in the gym during the week. And then Friday night I would go out, but I had to be able to get up and go to the gym first thing in the morning. So that means you're not getting wasted, because there's no such thing as a hangover. You're not allowed to have a hangover in my world. Don't ever tell me you have a hangover in my world. Not allowed to. So you can go out. You can go out and you wake up and you're going to get to the gym, and you might not feel so good about it. You might feel you're going to the gym. And then Saturday afternoon you work. And then Saturday night you can go out. And then Sunday you have to get up and go to the gym. And then you take Sunday off to maybe 4 or 5 p.m. And then 6 p.m. rolls around, because, you want to hang out with girls and do all that stuff. 6 p.m. on Sunday rolls around. That's when the week begins, because you're prepping for Monday. All right, what am I going to do? What's my agenda? And then Sunday at 6 p.m. you're working. So, yeah, I believe in, say, 24 to 32 hours of leisure time a week. But during the week, you're either doing work, self-development, and then a lot of people go, what about family? What about this? Well, I'm talking about what people under 30 need to do. I'm not talking about me as a father, because then that changes things. What happens to me as a father is I still work like I do, but I don't have time for the hand-holding and the pathetic questions and well, I think I'll do this, or I just don't have time for it. It's like I have 2 daughters who I enjoy being with and want need my attention and affection. And they're not pathetic. It's just pathetic to tell me you think you're going to start a blog. That is just don't. You're wasting my time.
Yeah, well, and I think you find that across the entire spectrum of age groups too. I mean, you get involved with people in different aspects of business, and some people have that winning mindset, and maybe they'll dip out of that for 2 or 3 years and do kind of the recreational thing and go to, an island, or they'll go to Asia or something, and, spend a year or 2 kind of decompressing, and then they get back at it and light it up. And those are certain types of personalities. And then you have people that just grind all the way through. But it is interesting that at times, whether it be a 21-year-old or even an 18-year-old or a 27-year-old. You do run into that in the older age group too, where you have guys that just bounce from, the serial entrepreneur. And, if you're a serial entrepreneur, you're probably not really an entrepreneur, right? And I don't really like that word. It's not that I don't like people that say it all the time, but it really rubs me the wrong way. And that if you're really a serial entrepreneur, you'd probably still have these businesses unless you grew something, like PayPal, and sell that off for $300 million. Then I get it, right? But the serial entrepreneur, if you're bouncing from business to business to business and these things aren't successful, you need to step back and say, what am I doing wrong? And, how is my daily regimen affecting my ability to succeed? I've got 6, 7 businesses going, and most of them profitable. A couple of them I'm still working on, but it takes a lot of focus to do that. And it's a regimen in and of itself. And then, trying to add physical fitness into that regimen for myself, that's difficult right now. I mean, I'm really struggling with getting that into my routine, even at my age and my level of financial success. It's tough, but you have to do it. And a lot of these guys just refuse to do it, even at the age of, say, 37. I'll meet a guy who wants to get into business with me, rehabbing houses or something. I'm like, you just don't have it in you. You got to show up 6, 7 days a week, 14 hours at that job site, doing that thing. If I'm going to put money in it, you're going to have to bust your ass. And they just don't want to do it.
Yeah, there's patterns, right? These are the habits that you're going to build when you're younger, and you're going to keep going. Like, people go, oh, how you so productive? I did film, 41 years old. And the answer is because I'm not just starting to do this. You couldn't just live in my people. If they transformed into my body, they would have a nervous breakdown in half an hour. They just wouldn't be able to handle it. But I just kept grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding. And then you get muscle memory. And then things that seem hard to other people, I can do now. I can drink a glass of wine and smoke a cigar with you, and tweet at the same time, and tweet about things that are provocative and compelling and which I could have done that when I was 25, 30, but you have to keep pushing it. How do you do the long days? Well, you don't start off doing long days. You start off like the model that I laid out. Now I only take 6 hours a week off because I spend a lot of time with my daughter and everything, which I enjoy doing, but as you know, kids still take a lot of time. Right. For me, I do maybe 6 hours a week is how much time I take off. And even then I'm never fully off. But when I was, 28 to 34, whatever, I'd take 32 hours a week off. But this whole idea that you leave work on Friday at 5 p.m. and you're just off for the weekend until Monday morning, that's pathetic. I don't want to meet anybody like that.
It doesn't really work for most people. I mean, there is a place for that. But if you're wanting to really level up in life and have, the ability to, last weekend I was in Los Angeles for your film event. I left the next morning I think, and we were out all night, and then left the next morning, took a flight out at 7 a.m. back to Napa Valley. I'm in Napa Valley for 4 or 5 hours. And then I'm off with my son to go check out a college in Oregon. And then back on Monday night. So if you want to be able to do those things, you've got to make those sacrifices early on so that first off, you can have the funds, to simply be able to do those things. I mean, people think, oh, well, you go down to Los Angeles, for 36 hours. It's no big deal. But, by the time you put an airfare on that, you put, Ubers around town, you put food on that, you got a hotel, it's $1,000, right? And for most people, they can't even do that, right? And certainly not do that all the time. And then to come right back and go to Oregon and then back to Napa Valley, you have to be able to financially afford that, be able to set up your life so that you have the time that allows you to do that, the free time that allows you to do that. And you get there by putting in the unrelenting dedication to your craft and then building multiple businesses and income streams that can support the lifestyle that you want to lead. You really have to think about that and where you want to be. Most people, I would say the vast majority of people that I meet are not willing to make the sacrifice that it takes to get to that level of financial success. They want the freedom, they want the money, they want the decent car, they want a nice house, they want to live in a beautiful area, like Napa Valley, but they're not willing to do the sacrifice that it takes to get there. And it is an enormous decades after decades of sacrifice to be able to do that.
Yeah, they want to be an ideas man. Oh, I'm 23. I have an idea for you, Cernovich. No, you don't. Get away from me. Go work. Go grind. Go read some books. Go lift weights. I don't need to hear your ideas. Ideas, you earn the right to be an ideas man, right? So even when you're in LA, you're not off though. You're on the phone because you can leverage your network. You can leverage your time. You can leverage your knowledge. So I've given people ideas that did millions of viral views. I told people, I can't remember what the exact context was, but, the Jussie Smollett hoax. I said, take the song This Is America, which was very critical of Trump and everything else. And I said, use that and juxtapose it with the Jussie Smollett hoax and use it to show that most of this stuff is a hate crime hoax. I came up with that in like 10 seconds. And well, why? Because I grinded it away, right? But these 22-year-olds are like, oh, I have an idea or something. You need to be the one making the videos. You need to be, and I didn't even take credit for the video or anything like that. I just called out the audible. I do this all the time. I'm like, this is what you need to do. But these people who are 22, but you have to go spend now 12 hours. It takes 12 hours to edit a great video like that. Sound, splice it together. Yeah.
It takes a ton of time. You can't bitch about it. You got to do it. And by the way, when you're done doing that, it's going to be Groundhog Day tomorrow, and you got to reproduce it again and again and again. And another great idea.
Yeah. Okay. So don't tell me that. So that's the point is if you're young, I don't want to hear your ideas. You need to go grind. You need to earn the right to have ideas. And then, you get a little bit older, then your ideas become leveraged. And you say, okay, like for me, I have an idea for a brand new business that's going to come to fruition like pretty soon. But I'm not the one grinding on making the labels and making that's something you're younger, you got to do. And, right. And then, you need to learn from the people above. But yeah, these young people think ideas make you rich. Grinding gives you the ability to, but I still grind. I mean, I edit my own podcasts. I do them in one take, like this podcast. That's why I always tell you, don't say anything too bad because we just should do it in one take, spend 20 minutes in sound and launch it. But I still do that. People go, oh, social media, da-da-da-da. I'm building up a new Rockfin account. How? I'm grinding. Every day I wake up. Here's a short podcast I'm doing only on Rockfin. You have to go on Rockfin to get it. You have to click over to Rockfin to get it.
Yeah.
So I'm literally showing people in real time that I'm grinding, and these people, they don't want to grind. They're not showing up every day.
They're not smart about it either. I've got a great story I want to share here about this. There's a real young guy. I think he's 23 or 24 years old. The guy has emailed me and called me probably 4 or 5 times. One, hey, can I take you out to lunch or whatever? What these guys don't realize is when you become successful in a craft, and for me, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, so it's a big market, and I do, some really great real estate projects here. And so it gets a lot of attention, especially in these like closed Facebook groups, and when I say closed, these groups have 60, 70,000 members in them that are doing different types of real estate. And I'm profiled in those. And so I get a lot of people asking me, hey, can I call you? Can I pick your brain? Okay. Can I take you out to lunch? I mean, it's constant. I'm not a celebrity level at all, but
but it's good. I'm going to interrupt you, which is to say, no, you can't. You can't. I don't need to be taken out for a beer. I have 2 daughters, a beautiful wife, large friend. No, you can't. I have a book you can read. I have thousands of podcast hours that you can listen to for free. No, you can't take me out for coffee. You can't take me out for a beer. I have enough people who want to do that. Actually, as you were talking about that, I, in my own head, was composing an article, which is, no, you can't take me out for a beer. I have events, come to an event, smoke a cigar. There's a lot of opportunities for that. But yeah, I'm actually in my mind now writing an article. No, you can't take me out for a beer. Sorry to interrupt, but I didn't want to lose that train of thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is exactly it. So this is a great story. So this kid he's been hounding me basically. And more so, some people, and by the way, this is like where you really know it's an absolute no, you cannot take me out to a beer. They send you one message, right? And then you don't respond to it. And then they start sending you hate after that. Oh, you're a freaking jerk, whatever, you're so inaccessible, you should help out guys like me that don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, what this guy did was he had contacted me, and I went through my list of people right leading up to my Whiskey Talk Live event that I had here in Napa Valley. As a real estate get together I did a few weeks ago. And I sent a message to these people, and I said, hey, you've been asking me to go to lunch. You've been asking me to go to happy hour. You've been wanting to pick my brain. Here's your opportunity. Come to the event, buy a ticket. You know what this guy did? He was already going to an event in St. Louis, Missouri, with Ed Milet. And it was the same night as my event. He bought a ticket to my event, even though he couldn't come, $150, right? Sends me the receipt and said, hey, can I at least buy you one beer now?
See, that's a smart kid. That's smart.
Super smart. So I went out last night with this guy, had a beer, ended up having a steak with him, and then he ended up picking up the tab, and now he's coming to my office next week. And I said, hey, if you want to come and listen to me, in my office talking to people and making some phone calls with clients and stuff like that, you're welcome to do it. So all that for $150. I mean, so that's a smart guy. Everybody else, oh yeah, I can't come that weekend. I've got, the motorcycle race, or I'm going fishing, or, I don't want to spend the money on the flight or whatever. Well, then you don't want to win. I mean, you just don't want to be a winner.
Yeah. Here's my favorite story like this. Because I do a lot of events, free events, and I was in Chiang Mai, and I tweeted out or posted on the blog or whatever, hey, I'm in Chiang Mai. I'll be at one of these WeWork locations. If you want to, come on out. And, 3-4 guys showed up. It was good. I had one kid email me and said, oh, I'm moving into Chiang Mai. I'm unpacking boxes. Can you come meet me at 9 p.m.? And I just thought, okay, no, you're the biggest loser I've ever met in my life. You're a loser, right? But that's how a lot of these people are. And the thing is, we always talk about politically correct culture and you can't make bad jokes or whatever. But you're not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say, no, that kid's just a loser. I don't want anything to do with him, because the time overlap was great for you, but you have boxes to unpack, because that's so important, right? You can't wait 3 hours to rip open some boxes, but then you want me to rearrange my time around you when I'm the one trying to help people out by showing up. But you're not supposed to say that. You're not supposed to.
Well, it's a complete broke mindset. It's just a broke mindset. You can fix that. It's tough. You can fix that. And I've seen people do it, not many, but I've seen people do it. But most people, that whole sense of, I don't know what it is, that they're entitled to people's time, and they're entitled to people's, what they have in their brain and their experiences and all that. It's shocking to me, really. It's amazing how many people just think that, oh, well, hey, I just need to reach out, ask, and I shall, get that immediately. And it doesn't work like that. Bring some value to the table. And that value might be as simple as buying a ticket to an event that you can't come to. But, bring something to the table, make it interesting, for the other party. And I'm not talking about just me or just you, but, make it interesting. And then you might get a response. And there are a lot of opportunities to link up with, somebody like myself or somebody like you. We do all kinds of events, and we're at different events. And I often, will tweet that out, or I'll put it on Instagram and say, hey, I'm going to be at this thing. If you're interested in connecting, you've been, I've got all these people that want to take me out to lunch. Well, here's your opportunity. Show up and have a glass of wine and we'll chat.
Yeah, I don't have time for that, right? I don't have time for I have time for people. I always have time for people, but I don't have time for people who, they just have that loser mindset, or, oh, I can't make it to one of your events. I don't want to hear you can't make it to my event, right? That's fine. You don't have to come to one, but if you're a young man, what else are you doing that's so freaking important, right? What else are you doing? Something dumb, probably. Oh, I can't make it. What are you doing? Solving cancer or something like that?
Well, if it's that important to you, if your success in life is that important to you, you will figure out how to make it happen. You'll figure out how to get the $30 or the $150 or even the $600 to make it to the event, and you'll figure out how to get there. Maybe you have to drive across the country in a, Prius and save on gas. I don't know, or maybe you have to buy a plane ticket that has 16 connections to get there because it's $152, but you figure out a way to do it if it's important enough. It's all about priorities and putting yourself as the priority and your business as the priority. But sadly, most do not do that.
Well, but that's why I always tell people that there's multiple ways of looking at it. And one way to look at it is on the societal level, which is bad out there. But the other way is like, these people are my competition, right? And then again, you can go back and read from history and realize it's always been this way. The world has always been a natural hierarchy, where that's why capitalism works so well. Is human nature is such that you're just going to have a large amount of people who are just going to follow the trends, that they don't want to grind. They don't have any aspirations, no dreams. They don't want to work hard. And then you have a small percentage of people who do want to work hard. And those people throughout history have always, well, not always, unfortunately, there have been most of human history, you're not an ambitious person wasn't able to rise to the top.
Yeah.
You could have been ambitious and talented and work hard and grind and everything. But if you weren't born into the right family, and this is true even in parts of India and other parts of the world, that's it. There's a ceiling on you. And in the West, there's no ceiling. Oh, there's a war on white men. There's a war on men. There's, okay, there always has been, though. There's always been social structures. But you can still rise to the top of the hierarchy if you're ambitious and you want to grind. But most don't want to grind. They want to sit around and cry.
Right. Yeah. And that does infuriate me when I read that, hey, America is not the land of opportunity, or that people don't, it's really impossible to rise to the top anymore and you can't get the American dream. That's all bullshit.
Right.
Or, you can go after, and look at story after story of people that have grown up in some of the worst parts of the country and risen to the very top. And so the opportunity is there for those that want to grind. Most do not. And most do not want to, do the hustle, do the grind, put in the hours. Sadly, that's just the way.
Okay, so in 4 weeks, we're going to start going live before the podcast. So it'll be like a live streaming of the podcast, and then we're going to do a Q&A after. That'll be we're not going to do that yet. We're going to do that in 4 weeks, and I think that'll be a lot of fun, and that'll be really cool.